All right. So now getting into this portion of the show, it's a very exciting time for me right now because the next person that I'm about to introduce is a person I'm a very big fan of. So joining me now, it's my honor to introduce professional MMA fighter. He has a 10-3 and 1 draw record in the world of mixed martial arts. Some of you may know him from the Ultimate Fighter Season 27 Undefeated. Please welcome to the show, Joe Giannetti.
Hey,
How's it
how's it
going,
going,
Joe?
man?
It's going
Good. How you
great.
doing?
Great, man. I'm very excited to finally get you on the show, man. How have you been?
I've been good. I appreciate you taking the time to have me. Just been training, waiting for the next fight, getting ready.
Awesome, man. And just for some of the audience that may not know who you are, can you just give us a little bit of a background of who you are and what it is you do now in the world of MMA?
So I'm a 10 and 3 1 professional MMA fighter. I was the finalist on Ultimate Fighter season 27. I lost a split decision and was actually released from the UFC. So I've been fighting my way back ever since. Um, I'm coming off a loss right now. Prior to that, I was coming off 2 wins, and I'm just looking forward to my next fight. Just keep fighting, keep getting those wins, and get back in the UFC.
Interesting. So now, so you were the finalist or one of the finalists in the Ultimate Fighter season 27. Now that edition was the undefeated edition, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so a lot of people that have seen the show, it's a reality-based TV show for people that may not know what it is. It's varies between the number of fighters that are on the show. Sometimes it's 14, 16, and you're pretty much just in a house, correct?
Yep.
And there is no connection to the outside world, correct?
Nope, no TV, no radio, no phones. We got TV like 2 or 3 times while we were there, but like they set it up just for the fights, and as soon
Yeah.
as the fights were over, they took it back down.
So that's a lot of stuff. And then you're living with the people that you're actually competing against. You're all vying for the same opportunity. You all want that, I believe it was a 6-figure UFC contract, correct?
Hmm.
And so what's some of the challenges that you have to endure when you're in the house? Because a lot of people obviously just obviously see whatever's put on TV, but there's certain, I guess, things that not everything gets put up on TV. So what's some of those challenges that, weren't captured there?
Honestly, I think the biggest one that we all went through, I mean, everybody handled it differently, was just being alone. Especially when you're cutting weight, you're training super, super hard, you're exhausted. Normally, whether it's your family, your friends, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever, you come home and you have somebody to kind of like fall back on and somebody to kind of just like decompress for the day and tell them like, this is how my day went. I'm so glad I'm home. I can just lay in bed, yada, yada, yada. You don't have that. You get this
Okay.
hard day of training and you come to this house full of guys that you're going to be fighting. So everybody's got eyes on each other, and then you're just there with your thoughts and you're by yourself. So you got nobody gassing you up like, oh, you're the man. Like nobody being like, you
Yeah.
got this. Like you got to do that to yourself. And so I think some guys couldn't, and I think some guys could.
Now, I'm assuming it's how awkward is it to have a camera guy just filming every single thing that you're doing 24/7, man?
So it was pretty awkward. They actually like sat us down, had to talk about it, and they were like, just do your best and pretend he's not there. And like, I think I did a pretty good job at like forgetting he was there, but there were a couple times where I'd literally just like turn and look right in the camera because I was just like, what?
And I'm sure, I mean, that gets awkward to a certain extent. I know that there's, everyone handles it very differently. There's some people that it does get to them. There's some people that obviously can just ignore and go about their day. So while you were in the Tough House, you got to train with, UFC legend Daniel Cormier. What was that experience like?
It was really cool, man. Like I tell people all the time, before I was a fighter, I was a fan of the sport. So
Yes.
just as a fan, just being on his team and like he's my coach now for the next 6 weeks was a really cool experience. And then one of his assistant coaches is Cain Velasquez. Like
Yes.
it was just really cool. But 2 days in, I kind of got over it because they worked us to the bone. Like we were so exhausted that it was like it went from oh my god that's DC to like what's up coach? Like I'm exhausted. I
Yeah.
don't have enough energy to fanboy.
No, I completely understand. So now, so the Ultimate Fighter competition reality show, whatever people want to classify it as. So it's a very long process. Obviously, it can be very, very rewarding when you look at the positives that come out from it. So I'm assuming though for this though, I mean, it's, again, 14, 16 fighters. It's a long process to be able to get on this show, correct?
Yeah, so it went over, I want to say like maybe 2 months, maybe just under 2 months. So they announced their tryouts, and then there was probably like just under a month before that. So now we're already down a month. Then you go to the tryouts, and that lasts about a week if you make it through the levels. And then after that, they're like, all right, we'll tell you if you made it or not. And I think 16 of us ended up making it, but the last group of guys before we left, I think there was like 30 of us or like 32 of us. So we were
Damn.
like, okay. So we were like, literally half of us are not going to make it. And they sent us home. And then you find out like a month and a half later. So it was a long process and a lot of waiting. So like as soon as you get home, you just got to train your ass off and just know you made it.
I get you. And I'm sure it's a very nerve-wracking process, correct?
Oh, for sure. And then trying to explain to my coach, like, oh, yes, tryouts went good. I think I might be on the show. We just got to train as hard as we can. Just really weird.
Now, is this more like a, is it like a, I'm sure it's not your like MMA. It's not like your typical job interview. Now, when typical job interviews, you go in face to face, you talk to, whoever's the hiring manager or whatever it is. Is there something particular like that where you had to have like a face to face interview with anyone when you were in the process of doing the show?
So we had a couple of interviews per se, but it was weird. It wasn't like tell us about you, this, that, and the other thing. They just kind of like we're doing, just kind of shooting the shit, asking some questions, wanted to know about you. But it wasn't really nerve wracking because, like I said, it was casual conversation. They asked like how my fights went, who I'm a fan of, how do I think I do against certain guys, and it all kind of depended on how you answered it. And obviously, it went pretty well for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about DC. What's Dana White like?
He's a cool guy, man. So I actually didn't meet him until my first fight on the show,
Yeah.
and obviously he went wild. I won in 17 seconds.
Against
He said,
John Gunther, correct?
yes, sir. He went nuts. He loved the performance. He said good job afterwards. It was really cool. And then when the show was all wrapping up and stuff, he gave us all we had like a meeting before we got sent home, and he gave us the whole talk like take care of who's friends with you now, because people that are friends with you after the show airs are probably just friends with you because the show airs.
Yeah. Okay. And so you talk about, I guess we talk about some of those nerve wracking and the challenges that are in the house. So how is it to train with people that you could potentially be fighting for someone? Because it's a very different thing. Because
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry, you
weird.
go.
So, oh, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
It's really weird, but Team DC was really cool because we kind of, from the jump, we knew what we get ourselves into. We knew we might be fighting each other. We knew we all want UFC contracts. So I think we all were holding back a little bit, but we all from the jump were just like, let's try and make each other better so that our team can win. And then when we fight each other, we'll divide in practice, and you train with you and you train with you. And we really didn't have many guys, if any, if I remember correctly. We didn't have any guys fight each other. So we didn't even have to worry about it. We were just a solid team.
Now, was there a person that when you get there, because when you get there, you're not in any one specific teams. I guess you're trying to just you meet people, you talk to the competitors. Obviously, no one's in teams yet. Was there somebody that was on, like, I believe Stipe Miocic was the coach? Was there someone that went to the other team that you wish you were teammates with, or is that like not even? Does that like not even cross your mind? I mean, because I understand you're just going in there and trying to take care of your business.
In the moment, it didn't cross my mind. I mean, I was in there, like, I didn't care about anybody else. I was there for me. I could care if it was just me by myself versus a team of 15 guys. But, in hindsight, no, I think our team was perfect. We all got along really well. And we all, like I said, we kind of formed a legitimate team really fast. And we helped each other get so much better.
Did you know any of the other guys, or did you hear about any one of those fighters that you were with?
No, I didn't know any of them. The only time I'd heard their names was at the actual tryouts.
Okay.
And other than that, I didn't know who anybody was.
Who's somebody that you bonded with quickly once the teams were made and you guys were training?
So before the actual show, after the tryouts, I ended up getting in touch with Luis Pena because he messaged me and was like, "You hear anything back about the show?" And I was like, "No, not yet." You? And he was like, "Nope." And then we both ended up being there, and I was like, "Oh, what's up?" And then before we were even on Team DC, we were kind of cool. But like I said, we kind of already knew, like, yo, we're probably gonna have to fight, but we can still be cool. And then we got put on the same team, so me and him were really tight. And we were roommates, us and Tyler Diamond and Bryce Mitchell. So the four of us got really close.
Awesome. So so once you leave, you should talk about going into the Ultimate Fighter house, and you go on to fight in the finale. It's a real big thing, obviously, and you're trying to keep everything, I guess, together, because obviously you can't like talk about results, or you cannot talk about things that happen on the Ultimate Fighter house. obviously. So leading up to that fight, leading up to your fight with Mike Trezano, talk about, I guess, the experience of the week leading into the fight for people that don't know, like, the life of somebody preparing for a UFC fight. It's a pretty big moment.
Yeah, the week of, you feel like a rock star. I mean, like you got to stop and do interviews, you got to do photo shoots, you got to go sign the posters. You feel like you're the main event superstar, even being a nobody, like which we were. We were nobodies at that point. Uh, and so they make you feel awesome. They take care of you. They get you gear. You need anything, we'll give you something else. So like as soon as we landed, they met us at the airport. The UFC bussed us to the hotel. Get to the hotel, we check in. They asked us if we need anything, like as far as like, do we need to go somewhere to get weight cutting stuff? The PI will help us with our food all week because we were in Vegas. So luckily we
Yeah.
had the UFC PI down the street. And the PI was the coolest thing. They took care of my food all week long, had a whole meal plan. They had the sauna in the PI, so I was able to cut weight there and have them watching over me while I did it. They pretty much they had our back through everything. It was really cool.
Now, as you're cutting weight, what's, I guess, it's not fun, correct?
No,
Obviously, it's
absolutely
not
not.
fun. So talk about some of, like, the challenges that you encounter in a week leading up to that, because you're preparing for a fight and it's a televised fight. It's, I guess I'm not going on a limb by saying it's the biggest fight in your career at that point. And you have cameras all around you and, the whole world's watching. So that plus cutting weight probably wasn't very fun. So what was a challenge as you're progressing through the week of a fight?
So for that fight specifically, there really wasn't any challenges physically on the week of the fight. The weight cut went great. We got the weight off great. We trained at the PI every single day. I think I trained harder that week than I have any other fight week, because it was such a big deal. I wanted to make sure that I got everything ironed out. There was no flaws. But yeah, mentally it's just like trying to control. This is the biggest fight of your career, but just treat it like every other fight. Like don't overhype it. Don't get nervous about it in your head. So you have to be ready to put it all out there, but also rein yourself in and not make yourself get too nervous.
Now, unfortunately, the result of that fight, didn't go your way. And obviously it's not fun to know that, you've gotten released, but how did you feel, or how does that work normally? Like when you're, in a company like that and they give you like the news. I know there's some fighters that, I guess it goes either way. Sometimes they'll retain you, sometimes they'll let you go. So can you talk about what, I guess that kind of like feels like? Because, that's the, I guess, brutal part of the sport. Not everyone is able to stay, and you sometimes you don't get what you want, correct?
Yeah. It was weird at first. It was kind of like I knew it was so after the fight happened, after I
Yeah.
lost, I knew it was gonna happen. I was like, I told my coach, I told all my friends that were like, good job, yada yada. I was like, I'm getting cut. Like that sucks. Like we'll get back to the gym when I get back. And they were all like, oh, you're crazy. There's no way you're getting cut. This, that, and the other thing. And probably like 2 or 3 weeks went by, and I was like sitting there, and I was kind of like, all right, I haven't heard anything from the UFC. I was like, but there's no shot they don't cut me. And then I don't remember what day of the week it was, but I was like at my house and I took a nap, and I woke up and I had like 5 or 6 missed phone calls. My coach never calls me. And I'm like, what the fuck? My buddies are texting me.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I was like, why is everybody blowing up my phone? And I like texted him and I was like, what's up? And he was like, oh, give me a call. And I was like, oh, this can't be good. So I
Okay.
give him a call and he was like, yeah, so there, and he like, his voice sounded like shaken up. Like he sounded not okay. And I was
Okay.
like, you good? I was like, you good? And he was like, yeah, they're not gonna keep you. Like they're not keeping you. They're gonna let you go. And I was like, yeah, man, honestly, I saw it coming. And I took it pretty cool, calm, and collect. Like I said, I took it on the chin. I knew it was happening, just a matter of when. And he was kind of confused. He was like, you sure you're all right? And I was like, as good as I can be, honestly. And then I hung up the phone and I sat there for a minute. And then I remember I actually shut my phone off and then I went for a walk, and I probably walked for like 2 or 3 hours, to be
Yes.
honest. I got this old spot that I used to hang out at when I was a kid. It's like next to a pond. It's very like just calm and relaxing. And I just walked down there, and it was pretty far from my house at the time, and I just didn't care. I walked down there, went to the woods, sat by the river or the lake, and I just thought about it, just like what I did wrong, what I could have done better, what I'm gonna do moving forward. And it was just like I said the night of that fight. There's nothing I really can do. I can do two things. I can sit here and cry and complain and be like, "Woe is me," or I can go back to the gym and work on getting back to the UFC. So that's what I did. Um, don't get me wrong. There was like I don't know time wise when, but there was definitely moments where like I was alone and broke down in tears, like because that sucks.
Yeah.
Because I went from like this is my moment, like everything I've been working for. Because it was hard getting the Ultimate Fighter. I was only 6-0, but I was 7-0 as an amateur. I had a very quick rise through the amateur and pro ranks, and then right onto the show. So it happened very fast. I did a lot fast, and it was difficult. So I had those moments where I was just in my house bawling my eyes out and like, this
Yeah.
sucks, woe is me, da 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 da. But it lasted for like 10, 15 minutes, and then I looked at the watch and I was like, all right, we got to go train. So
I
yeah,
understand that.
so it sucked big time. But now it's kind of like there's still times right now where like I don't get super upset about it, but I'm like, damn, kind of wish I was in the UFC still. But the more mature side of me says this is the time to get better.
Exactly.
I have all this time to get better. I'm only 25. You got guys like Israel Adesanya don't get signed to the UFC till he's like 28, 29, and look where he's at.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very understandable thing. It's I guess to a sense it could be very crushing, because you're an athlete, and again, you're a mixed martial artist. You're a professional athlete. Some other professional athletes, it's not like being in the NFL or like the NBA where you get a contract, and not sure how the payment system works there, but obviously you get a boatload of money. If 1 year it doesn't work or you want to retire, I mean, you have the option. You've made
Hmm.
money. The money's very different, I guess, from when you talk about the professional like MMA scene to like basketball, football, and those other kinds of sports. So that's a very hard one. Now, to me, it was very shocking just because of the fact that I saw the season you were on, and I was a fan, and it was very surprising because of the fact to me was the fight was so close, and I was like, okay, well, they've kept other fighters, so I was very shocked when I heard the news. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's very interesting because I know that, you know, there are no fighters that have lost in the finale and that have stayed with the UFC. So to me, it was a shocking one. Obviously, the way you handled it was a very, very mature way. There's some people that that kind of stuff, they don't come back from. But you're grinding away, and right now you're staying active and stuff. So do you have any idea? Well, when was your last fight? Sorry.
It was August 28th.
Let's talk August 28th. So any idea of when you're planning to try to like get back in?
I'm trying to get back in there. I'll go back in there tonight. I mean, I'm ready to go. LFA told me they were looking for a name for me at lightweight, so we're gonna see what they can get there. There's a guy, Ali Zebian, who's fighting tonight for LFA. I
Yeah.
would love to get my hands on him. He's been ducking me. He beat one of my teammates, so it's a little personal. I'd like to get my hands on him. So if he gets a win tonight, I'll be hitting up LFA asking for him.
Awesome. And okay, so we're talking about the future, but let's talk about something that happened. I believe it was last year, November in 2019. So you're trying to come back and trying to get yourself in a position to get back and signed with the UFC. You take a fight, and it's against a guy named Paddy Pimblett. I don't know if I said that correctly. So it's a fight in London. I believe it's Cage Warriors or Cage Titans. Correct.
Cage
Correct me.
Warriors.
Cage Warriors. Correct. And you fly out and you take the fight on. I believe was it 10 days notice?
Yep.
That's a real tough thing for I guess for an MMA fighter because of the kind of cut. How much weight did you have to cut as you were trying to prepare for that fight?
So I had to lose 28 pounds and I lost 24.
So going into that fight, obviously the fight. Spoiler alert for someone that doesn't know what happened. Yeah, the fight didn't happen. Can you go ahead and just walk us through that? Because it seems to me like there was, I guess, some sort of controversy that was in there. There was a little bit of commotion during the weigh-ins. Can you just walk everyone through the challenges from taking a fight short notice to what happened in that situation with Paddy?
So I was sitting on my couch and I was playing Xbox, and like 2 hours prior, I talked to the promoter for Cage Titans here in Plymouth, Mass, and he was like, I got nobody to fight you in November. We'll try for January. So I'm like, okay, I'm not fighting for the rest of the year. I got Thanksgiving coming up. I got Christmas coming up. I got my girl's birthday coming up. You know what? I'm just gonna double down mentally. I'm not fighting this year. I'm gonna relax, try to recover and heal, and enjoy some food. I haven't enjoyed food since before I got cut from the UFC. So I
Exactly.
was like, I'm gonna start eating. I ordered some food, and I didn't even get to eat it because I got the text as my food got delivered. Hey, you want to fight Paddy Pimblett at 155? I was like, sure. When? Next weekend, 10 days. I was like, let me go step on a scale, and the hell was I? I was 184, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can do this, but this is gonna suck so bad. And not only that, I didn't even have a passport yet. So I took the fight before I had a passport. They said, all right. And they started working on the paperwork. I started Googling online how to get one overnighted. So I had to drive into the city of Boston, midday traffic. I had to sit there all day to get through. They were like, come back tomorrow. Then I had to go back the next day. It cost a boatload of money. I had to go get my picture done for it, all this crap. And then I had to like get money together for weight cut stuff, you know, my post weigh-in rehydration drinks, all that shit, tons of money. And I took days off of work. And then we eventually got everything together. We fly out to London. Cage Warriors was awesome. It's like a mini UFC. They bussed us from the airport to the hotel, told us like, this is where you can cut weight, yada, yada, yada. And I was a little heavier than I normally like to be on fight week, and which is expected, but the weight was still falling off. Every day I was like 2 to 3 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is perfect. And then the night before weigh-ins, or the 2 nights before weigh-ins, we were at a gym in London. I forget, Shoot Box, I think.
Okay.
Great gym, wicked nice guys. They let us train in there for free because we were getting ready to fight. And I was doing cardio and pads. And I was like, I said to my teammate, Johnny Cupcakes, I was like, dude, I'm kind of nervous that the weight is still falling off and I don't feel like shit yet. Normally, if I have a big cut, you know, I start feeling tired and groggy, but I have to push through my workouts. I was pushing through these workouts like they were no big deal. And he was like, dude, he's like, just ride it out. Don't complain. He goes, if you feel good, then keep going. I was like, okay. So we were training my ass off. And then, you know, it was the day of the weigh-ins where they said, weigh-ins are at 2. You need to be at the hotel lobby at 1. So we got up at 6 a.m. and started the cut. And we were there for the whole day until we had to go to the bus. And probably an hour before we had to go to the bus, so noon, I stepped out of the sauna. We were doing like intervals. So I'd be in there for like a half hour, and then I'd be out and under the towels for like 10, 15 minutes and back and forth. And I went in there I came out, I went into my towels, and I wasn't really sweating much. I went back in the sauna, and I wasn't sweating at all. And then I was like, okay, we'll just keep going. I started doing jumping jacks and high knees and all this shit, and I wasn't sweating. So I was like, all right, it's all in my head. I'm just going to stay in here. So instead of staying in for 20, 30 minutes, I stayed in there for an hour, and I didn't have a bead of sweat on me.
Man, that doesn't sound normal.
No. And so, like, I was kind of just like, okay, it's all in my head. Just keep going, keep going. And my teammate came in, and, like, we use, like, a credit card or something to swipe the sweat off. And he went to do it, and it just, like, scratched my back because it was so dry. And at the same time, we both were like, oh, no. And I was like, I don't know what to do, man. And then, like, I went under the towels to try again. I was, like, passing out under the towels. So he texted the promoter and was like, hey, Joe's not going to be on weight. He's 4 pounds over. He's not sweating. They said, don't worry, we'll take care of it. I can't see Paddy not taking this fight. Cool. So we go to weigh-ins. I tell them, hey, it's 4 pounds. I'm over. They said, okay, we'll tell Paddy. So at this point, they still haven't told Paddy. Okay. They have us step on the scale, and I was kind of thinking to myself, like, it's weird that nobody seems to know yet, minus the promoter, that I'm not on weight. So I step on the scale. I checked 3 scales prior. They all said I was 4 pounds over, so 159. I step on the scale. This thing said I was like 163 or 164.
Yeah, it was 160. That's what I heard. It was 163.
Yeah, 63. Yeah. So my first reaction is like shock, and not like shock that I missed weight, but shock that 3 scales said I was 159, and I know for a fact I was 159 because I was so light. And then this one says I'm 163, and I couldn't explain to somebody what their scale was like. So a normal scale here, I don't know if it's just all of England compared to the U.S., but you know, like a U.S. scale is like a flat square, right?
Correct.
This thing they had me step on is like, I don't even have anything to describe it. Imagine like a big brick. Okay. Like it looks like a brick, but like 2 bricks high. And I'm standing on it, and like my feet barely fit on it. It was a weird thing. You ever seen Ghostbusters?
You know what? I never have. I heard it's awesome though.
It is awesome. But they have this little box like that they trap the ghosts in. That's what it looked like. This little metal box.
Oh, okay. So I was the movies you're talking about. I was thinking of something else. Yeah. Yes, there you go. The things where they trap the ghost through the little.
So after they put it into the little box. That's what their scale looked like. So I was like, "Where's the scale?" And they were like, "It's right here." And I was like, "Okay." But yeah, so I was surprised because I was so much overweight, and I kind of just like put my hands in the air, and I was like, "Okay." And then Paddy weighed in. I think he was like 154 or 53 even. He was small. And then we did our face-offs, and, you know, at first he kind of walked up to me all big and bad, like, you know, fuck this guy for missing weight. And then we made eye contact, and we shook hands, and then we stared off, And instantly I just saw this break in him. Like, he realized I was there to fight, and he was like, I'm not fighting this kid.
Okay.
And so he starts flipping out and he's chirping, yada, yada, yada. And then I went back over to my teammate and I started drinking my water. I had a little Cliff Bar, and Paddy and his team come over and start flipping out. You're going back in the sauna, da 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 da. And I was like, dude, I can't. Like, I'm physically not sweating. Like, it's not like I'm just like sweating and I don't want to cut weight. Like, I'm physically not sweating.
Yeah.
And one of his teammates gets in my face and was like, you're going in the sauna. And I was like, are you gonna make me? And I was like, because we can fight right now. And then my teammate came in and was like, all right, guys, like, go sit down, sit down. And then Paddy's still running his mouth. And of course, I'm pissed off. I'm dehydrated. I don't
You're
feel
grumpy.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a miserable weight cut. I've missed work. I've spent all this money to come fight in London. Never left the country before. And I got this kid yelling at me like I didn't just lose 24 pounds. And that's what I was saying to him is I was like, are we going to pretend I didn't take this short notice and lose 24 pounds to save your fight? And then he started changing the narrative, like, you're wasting people's opportunity to fight after they specifically told me nobody would fight him. So I was like, that doesn't make sense. So me and him are going back and forth. And then he says, fuck that, the fight's off. And I was like, all right, see you later. We go back to the hotel. I didn't eat anything yet because I was like, maybe there's still a chance. He's on Twitter bad-mouthing me. I'm texting the promoter, like, what can we do to make this fight happen? And they were like, well, in your contract, it says you offer up to 50% of your purse. I said, screw it. Take the whole thing. I was like, if I win, he can have my winner's purse too. He can have all my money. I don't care.
You just wanted to fight.
I just wanted to fight. At that point, I lost so much money from not being at work. I lost all that weight. I'm across the freaking globe.
You might as well
Like,
just do it.
Yeah, might as well. And so then they were like, all right, we'll tell Paddy. Paddy's online chirping. Somebody says to him, like, hey, what if Joe doesn't weigh more than 168 tomorrow on fight night? Like, would you take the fight? And he says, yeah. And I commented on it, and I said, done deal. I screenshotted it, sent it to the promoter. I said, hey, Paddy says if I weigh in again tomorrow, fight's on. They text me back, and they say, we've tried everything. Paddy does not want this fight.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you there. So you said, not to backtrack, you said you faced off with him, correct? So at that point, did he agree to fight you at that point, or why was there a face-off then?
So he didn't agree or disagree. He just stepped on the scale. And, yeah, so I assumed the fight was on.
Okay.
And then after our little, like, verbal altercation, we just kind of, like, left it as is. Nobody said if it was on or off. And he was like, nah, fuck that. I don't want to fight him. He's fat, da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, so is the fight on or not? And then, like, the promoters were like, oh, well, we'll keep in touch, this, that, and other thing. So I'm at the hotel, sitting at the restaurant in the lobby, like, do I get a salad or do I get a cheeseburger and a beer? Because I'm not going to waste my time out here if I'm not fighting.
Correct. I got you. You're in London.
So I mean, why not? And so then he's on Twitter saying, I just want a vacation, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, listen, I'm Italian. If I'm going to try and scam a way to a vacation, I'm going to go to Italy, not England. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that was his whole narrative that he said. And then we bumped into them in the hotel lobby, and there was like 10 of them, and they're trying to get big. And I was like, we'll fight you guys, like 2 on 10. I came here to fight in a cage or not. Like, I grew up fighting. I don't care. And then they were like, the promoters are telling me that he doesn't want the fight. So I screenshotted that and tweeted it. And he's got his whole flock of people. He's like, oh, you photoshopped that. That's one of your buddies. I was like, how could I do that? I had to download an app to text in England. So it was just a whole stupid thing. And then he just keeps going and going. And then he calls me out to a bar fight. And I was like, okay. And I was like, what's the bar? And he like drops the name. And I was like, I don't know where that is. So I'll just come look for you. And before I can even ask my teammate, he's already standing up like, let's go. And I'm like, word. So we're in the middle of London, walking down the street, looking at random bars, trying to find this kid. And we find him in the window, smiling, drinking a beer with his buddies. And we're like, all right, cool, come outside. And he like starts laughing, like doesn't think I'll do anything. And he's like, why don't you come in here? I was like, no, because I want to beat your ass outside. I was like, why don't you come outside?
Yeah, that sounds fishy.
They keep saying, come in, come in, come in. So we go, I go, all right. I go, we come inside. I don't think they believed we were coming in. There was like a post when you walk in, you have to go around. Yeah. So I walk in, I didn't see him. I take a right and I see him sitting in the far corner. And I'm like, what's up? And their faces just go white. And I walk over and I go, so what's good, in here or outside? Oh, we don't have to fight about this. Are you kidding me? Da, 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 da. And I was like, bro, are you for real right now?
Yeah.
And then in the corner of my eye, I see one of his little flockies, just his little camera guy. He grabs his cell phone and he kind of like tries to slickly like pull it up. And I go, yeah, record this. I go, I want the world to know that your boy's a bitch.
Yeah.
And he sits there like recording it. And I was like, dude, you just called me out to a street fight. I don't know how this works in England, but in America, we fight. I was like,
Yeah.
so we can fight in here or we can fight outside. Because I didn't fly across the globe to not fight. Then one of his teammates stands up and I was like, you sit down. I don't have a beef with you, but we can have one if you want. He sits down. Me and Paddy are going back and forth. And then somehow, I don't even remember, the conversation ends with Paddy saying something along the lines of like, how about this? We'll go our separate ways, and if we'll shake hands, and if we fight, cool. If we don't, maybe we'll fight in the UFC. And everything in me was like, no, slap this kid. And I was like, okay, we can shake hands and let bygones be bygones. So I shake his hand. I said, gentlemen, have a nice night. Nobody's ever calmed me down that fast in my life. Maybe it's because it had to do with my career and not just some knucklehead in a bar.
Exactly.
But I calmed down so fast. I shook his hand. I said, gentlemen, have a nice night. And I walked out. And like, I joked around with my teammate. I was like, I've never gone from almost fighting somebody to shaking their hand that fast in my entire life. So we leave. We go get a drink. We're eating. My phone starts blowing up again.
Oh
And
my God.
I'm like, what the hell? And it's Paddy online talking shit about me. And all I said was, didn't we just have this talk? I thought we were cool. Starts talking shit to me this time. And I was like, do I need to come back to the bar? And now people are saying, what bar? What's going on? And I was like, for anybody that didn't know, Paddy called me out to a bar fight. There was 5 of them and 2 of us. And I said, okay, let's fight. And then we didn't because of Paddy. And all he can return with is, oh, you're making it up, this, that, and the other thing. I was like, you had a camera guy there. Where's that
Jesus,
video?
man. Yeah.
I'm like, post that video. So nothing ever came out of it. We didn't fight. I left. You know, it sucks because Cage Warriors was pissed at me. I don't blame them. I apologize to them.
They were pissed at you?
Oh, they were pissed at me. So the only thing the Cage Warriors did out of that whole thing that I didn't like, and I personally didn't see this, is what I was told, was during an intermission or something on Fight Night for Cage Warriors, either the owner or one of the matchmakers or somebody got in the cage and said something along the lines of, Paddy wanted to fight Joe after he missed weight, but we decided that it wasn't safe to fight after Joe missed by that much, so we didn't allow the fight to happen.
Okay.
So now that's something that I was told, and that's very suspect because that's the furthest thing from what had physically happened. I have texts and everything. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I did apologize to Cage Warriors, the promoter, the matchmaker, everybody. How they treated us was awesome, minus this one thing. So I did tweet, hey, I heard this was said. If so, that's a bold-faced lie. I was like, but I do appreciate everything Cage Warriors has done.
Yeah.
And that was it. I've been in touch with the Cage Warriors matchmaker since then, but the owner, I forget his name, Grant, I think Graham. He didn't respond to my apology or anything. He's just not a fan of me, I don't think. And it is what it is. Like I said, I told him in my apology, I get it if you don't like me. I get it if you're mad at me for how I handled things and missing weight. I go, honestly, at this point, it just is what it is. I can't take it back. And so I never really heard from them again. And every once in a while, I get somebody tagging me because there's a post from Cage Warriors. Who do you want to see Paddy fight next? And I get tagged. And I'm like, I'm down. And Paddy will talk shit. And it's like, well, there's been multiple Cage Warriors events since pre-COVID. And I'm like, you haven't signed a contract to fight me. So every day Paddy doesn't sign a bout agreement to fight me, he proves my point.
So you want to fight him?
I would love to fight him. I want to fight him more than anybody on this planet.
Okay, interesting. So as far as Cage Warriors though, you'd fight for them again though, correct?
I would love to fight for them again. Like I said, minus that one thing that was more than likely said, because there was a very close friend of mine that said they watched the UFC Fight Pass stream and that was said. If that was what's said, I'm disappointed. But everything else they did on fight week, handling everything, it was great. Like a mini UFC, super nice photo shoots, interviews, busing us to the hotel and stuff. It was great. I'd love to fight for Cage Warriors if they'd have me back.
So that's very interesting. Now, is it true that I guess one of your boys like stepped on the scale and offered to fight him?
That's my dude. That's Johnny Cupcakes Campbell.
I saw him and I saw a video of that. I said, man, that guy's such a G. He said, I'll fight you tomorrow. I'm on this way. And I think he was on weight actually, correct?
Oh yes. So he had fought the weekend before in Massachusetts. So that was when I was like, okay, I'm not fighting. Because at the point where I decided pre-Cage Warriors, like I'm not going to fight this year, it was a week out from my local card. I was trying to get a fight on a week's notice, and then I didn't. And then 2 days later, I got the call from Cage Warriors. I'm like, okay, is what it is. But Johnny had just fought and won. I forget who it was against. I know it was a finish for a fact. Um, but I don't remember who he fought, but he won and he was healthy. He didn't take any damage. So then when me and Patty are kind of yelling at each other at weigh-ins, Johnny looks at me and goes, "Can I fight him?" And so Johnny's such a madman. I didn't know if he meant like, "Can I fight him in the cage tomorrow?" or "Can I fight him like right now in person?" So I didn't know what he was
Yeah.
asking, but either way, I said, yeah. I was like, go for it. And then
And he
he
stepped on the
rips off,
scale.
yeah, he rips off his shirt and his shorts and he's in his boxers and he jumps on the scale and he goes, 154, Patty. What's up? 154. And Patty's first excuse is, well, it's easy to say when you don't have medicals. And Johnny returned with, I fought last weekend. I have everything Joe has. And the room went silent. And the
And he
owner of
ducked that
Cage
fight.
Warriors, yeah, and the owner of Cage Warriors, Graham, came up to me and he like kind of pointed at my teammate, and I go, honestly, it's beyond my power. Like, he's a senior to me. He's trained years way before me. I don't tell him what to do. I go, but he is a 35er who weighs 154 because he just fought. I go, and he will whip Patty's ass because he is one of the best 35ers I've ever trained with. He is so freaking good.
Okay, interesting. And so I'm sure that was such a wild experience. So what do you have to say to those people that say, well, you took the fight on 10 days notice, you should have made weight? What do you have to say? Because I've heard some of those critics, that's one of the things that I guess Patty said, that, you know, you knew what you were getting yourself into. What do you have to say to those kind of people that respond like that?
100%. Two things, because everybody says I've never said it since then, and I've said it multiple times. Two things. One, I should have made weight. Obviously, that's not
Well,
going to
yeah.
change what had happened. I should have made weight. Two, it's all my fault. I'm not blaming anybody else. I never have since it happened. I took responsibility for it. Those are the two biggest things I want to get out the way at first. And then it's just the other thing is, as a fighter, I know what I was getting myself into when I took the fight, but as a fighter, you also know what you're getting yourself into when you take somebody else's short-minute fight or short notice fight.
Yeah.
So Patty knew when I took the fight, there's always a chance you don't make weight on a short notice fight. There is. Whether you want to
Yeah.
say, oh, you should have, you need to, da da da. There's always a chance short notice you don't make weight. That's just the game. It's physics. The other thing is, I've said it before, I'll die in the cage fighting because that's what I do. I will not die cutting weight for a fight. I've had kidney failure before from a weight cut gone bad. So when I sit in a sauna for an hour and I don't sweat a bead, there's physically nothing else I can do except start chopping off limbs, and I'm not going to do that.
Do you feel like this incident hurt you in a sense when it came to trying to get back to the UFC?
Probably not. I mean, I'm a big believer in Wolf of Wall Street. There is no such thing as bad publicity. Whether you're
Correct.
talking shit about me or giving me praise, you're talking about me. And granted, that's not what I'm going for. It's not the type of publicity I'd like, but it's publicity, and it is what it is. And I've always said to people, I've never promised perfection, but I've always promised improvement. And since then, my weight's been lower. My weight cuts have been easier. So you know what? It could be the best thing ever. Now it could come full circle and I could fight Patty, and that would be the greatest moment of my life.
And so talk about what's the most excruciating thing about weight cutting for people at home that may not know.
So where do I begin? There is a lot, especially if you have a big cut. So honestly, we'll start with mentally. Mentally, if it's like an 8-week camp, 10-week camp, you miss out on things. When I fight in the summertime, it sucks. My birthday's the day after 4th of July.
Oh
There's
yeah.
always barbecues going on, stuff like that. Your friends' kids' birthday parties. Like, you go to these things, but you're a little less like lively and excited because you're tired, because you're cutting back on your calories. People are barbecuing and grilling food and hanging out and drinking beer. Like, you can't even do that. So you're kind of just sitting there like a loner, drinking a jug of water while everybody's having a good time. So that sucks. You miss out a lot. A lot of times I skip events just because I don't want to be around all that food and shit,
Of course,
because I feel like
temptation.
between temptation and I kind of feel like I'm bringing the vibe down because I'm
Yeah.
kind of just sitting there like I'm watching you guys all eat. I want to eat.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
and so that sucks. And then physically, there's two different parts. I mean, there's the part of cutting calories, your body adapting to it, and you have to do it healthily. So you can be big and strong, and you can be small and weak, or light and weak, I should say. And you need to be the better of both worlds. You need to be light and strong for your fight, and that's what people don't understand. There's a difference between making weight and being able to perform. That's what fighters need to do. And it took me a while to realize that. I've made weight before and had terrible weight cuts. The Paddy Pimblett fight, for example, I told him straight up, I wasn't even trying to talk shit to him. That night was Paddy Pimblett's best chance to beat me because I botched that weight cut. I did whatever I could to get as low as I could. I lost so much muscle in
Yeah.
10 days that when I went back to the gym and started lifting, my numbers dropped drastically. I was lifting numbers so low that I was embarrassed to even be lifting in front of people.
So you feel,
So,
I mean, you feel weak by the time,
oh, horrible.
by
Like
the end of that.
a child could beat me up. You feel so weak.
What's it like, I guess, the night before a weigh-in? I heard that's
The
one of the
night before,
hardest nights.
it is the worst. So, me personally, I can't sleep night before weigh-ins. I'm just so uncomfortable and like your mouth's dry. Like a sip of water would be like God's greatest gift, and you can't have it. And then everything is tempting. Like you're watching TV trying to put yourself to sleep. You see a Wendy's commercial, and you're like, wow, I wish I had some of that. And then like a water company's commercial comes on, you're like, wow, an ice cold bottle of water sounds great. Just little things that like you never care about. Um,
It
Bread's
hits
a big thing.
home.
Oh, it hits home bad. Like bread. Like I'll watch somebody make a sandwich and I'm like, I don't even want the sandwich. I just want the bread.
Yeah.
I like I want the carbs. So it's just little things that you never care about or you're just like dying for. And then you gotta sleep because you gotta weigh in and be healthy to fight in 2 days. Um, so it's a roller coaster of emotion.
So what's it like? So you weigh in after that, and then you immediately, I'm assuming you drink water after that. You get a protein bar. Do you actually, are you able to eat more, I guess, on the night of the fight, like the night before the fight though? So like, or is there like a specific thing that you have to do, or certain things that you still cannot eat just because you're still trying to, like, I guess, stay hydrated or stay, I guess, in a healthy point before you go into a fight? Or is it you can just eat whatever you want after you weigh in? What's that like?
So so everybody's different. Personally, I can do either or. I can eat super super clean, or I can eat whatever I want. One of my favorite weigh-in pictures. I literally weighed in and then I stepped off the scale and had Five Guys. I had a burger
Yeah.
in my hand as soon as I was off the scale.
You love the Five
And
Guys.
I love Five Guys. They're so good. But if you eat clean, like Five Guys, as funny as it's gonna sound, like it's a little greasy, but like Five Guys food is clean. Like it's clean, high quality beef.
Yeah.
So like you can eat that after a weigh-in, as long as you're not eating like candy bars and ring dings and all this junk processed
Yeah.
food. Like you can eat a lot more food than most people would think. So I rehydrate. I'll have like a protein bar, and then I'll have some soup to like the heat will open up your stomach because it shrinks from cutting weight.
Yeah.
Uh, and then normally I'll have like a little snack, and that night I'll go out to like some Italian restaurant and get chicken parm because it's got a little of everything. I got chicken, I got the gravy, I got the pasta. It's
Yeah.
just like a
Some carbs
perfect
in there.
meal for me. Exactly. Day of the fight, I don't eat as much to be honest. I get like steak and eggs for breakfast with some toast. I have some coffee. If the diner has it, I'll get like some cornbread or like a corn muffin. And then honestly, I just kind of nitpick at stuff for the day. I don't have any more like meals. I just like
Yeah.
pick at this, pick at that, have a banana or two before I fight. And then after I fight, I'll have like pizza and all this crap.
Or more Five Guys.
More Five Guys if they're open, yes.
You ever you never been to Texas, I'm assuming.
So technically yes. My last fight on the way home, my flight stopped in Texas, but I didn't leave the airport. No.
You gotta have Whataburger, man. It's the
What
best
is it?
thing. Whataburger. Some people, my friends would probably listening to this would probably make fun of the way I say it, but it's what a burger. It's
Huh?
it's the most delicious hamburger there is, man. It's like a Texas thing.
Really?
Yes, it's so mouth-watering, man.
So I think it was at the Texas airport what I had. It wasn't Whataburger. I think I had a Smash Burger. I think.
Smash Burger's okay, but I mean, like,
Exactly. It's okay. Yeah, I
okay,
wasn't impressed. I
but
heard good things, and I was like,
Whataburger, man.
Whataburger.
You
Okay, I'll
you
keep it in
gotta
mind.
have that if you're in the Texas area.
I'll have to
So,
keep that in mind.
who's the most influential fighter that you've seen? Because I mean, growing up, you're an MMA fan. So who's someone that inspired you to take this take this walk of life?
So that's a very, very good question. So it's weird. I have different inspirations for different things. Anderson Silva was the first fighter I ever saw. I to this day don't remember if I saw it live as a kid or if it was a like UFC replay. But it was the Forrest Griffin fight,
The
and
Anderson Silva one.
and
Yeah, and
he's
he
just
demolished him.
in the Matrix,
Yeah.
hands down, all this. And I was a kid at my buddy's house, and his dad was actually watching it. I didn't know what MMA was, and he was like, "Oh, this is called UFC. Like these are fights." And then I watch Anderson doing all this stuff, and I go, that's not how you fight. But then he's like dropping him, and I was like, maybe it is.
Yeah,
Uh,
he hurt Forrest that fight.
yeah, bad. So, Anderson is one of my top three favorite fighters of all time. And that he inspired me to, like, he opened up the door to MMA for me, and he inspired me to do, like, you can do anything in MMA if you make it work and you make it your own. Be very creative. Anderson's one of the most creative guys in the sport. So he inspired me in that way. Stephen Thompson kind of inspires, like, my striking style. Because for a long time, I had a very amateur-wise, I had a very plodding, flat-footed style, and it wasn't effective. I was getting beat up a lot and then taking guys down and tapping them out. But with like my Stephen Thompson approach, I'm very more bouncy. I land more shots. I'm accurate. So he's inspired me there. And then mentally, I'd say like the Diaz brothers, man. I'm a huge Diaz brothers fan.
Yeah,
I've
Nate's
watched like,
awesome.
yeah, Nick's awesome.
Nate,
I've watched their little like mini docu-series things on YouTube thousands of times. Just how they grew up. It was very similar to mine, like watching Nick Diaz try to explain, like, I got jumped at school, but because I busted the kid open, I get in trouble.
yeah,
And that happened to me growing up. I would get in a fight with somebody for picking on me, but because I won, I would get in trouble.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
then the next day, like, a group of kids would try to jump me because I just beat up their buddy, but I only beat up their buddy because he was picking on me.
But you look
Uh,
like the bad guy at the end of the day.
yeah, but luckily, kids from where I'm from, when they jump you, they literally, like out of a Jackie Chan movie, try and take you on one at a time. So I fought like 4 kids one at a time, and like I got beat up, but like I hurt them too. And then I get in trouble because these kids have broken noses, and I'm like, I got black eyes too, like there was 4 of them.
Yeah,
But because they look worse, I get in trouble. And so
absolutely.
like growing up like that, I've related to the Diaz's, so it was really cool seeing their backstory.
So your very first fight that you saw was Anderson Silva.
And Forrest Griffin, yeah.
The very first one I saw was Anderson Silva versus Rich Franklin. So,
1 or 2.
the first one, man, it really broke my heart.
Yeah.
I was a huge Rich Franklin fan. I still am. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
broke
love
my
Rich
heart,
Franklin.
man. He was like my idol. He looked like Jim Carrey and stuff. 'Cause I used to
Yep.
watch those Ace Ventura movies. So, it was definitely heartbreaking. I remember watching Anderson fight, and to me, at least in my very own eyes as a fan, to me, he was the GOAT to me. I'm like,
Yep.
man, I'm
100%.
like, who can beat this guy? I remember my dad and I were watching the fight where he fought Chael the first time, and Chael was beating on him, man, for
Bad.
most of the fight. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, awesome. Like, going into the fight, I was like, there's no way in hell Chael was gonna win
Mm-hmm.
this fight. And then my dad, we were watching it at home. It was just both the 2 of us, and he didn't like Anderson very much. Just wasn't a fan of him because he
Yep.
won so much. So he's like, oh my God, Chael's gonna win. Chael's gonna win. And sure enough, man, that last minute, the 5th round, just caught him,
Crazy.
and I couldn't believe it, man. I was like, God, man, no one can beat this guy. So
That submission kind of solidified his legacy to me because I feel like Chael, because that was after the Damian Maia fight where everybody was ragging on him,
yeah,
kind of running from Maia because, Maia's good on the ground, and Anderson realized that.
yeah.
But I feel like Chael was kind of brought in like, all right, get rid of this Silva guy. Let's bring Chael in. And he almost did it. And then, he
He
didn't,
had
and
it. It was
Silva
a
didn't,
perfect fight.
had it in the bag. He lasted another 10 seconds. He had it in the bag. But Silva didn't give up. And so that's why he's the best.
Yeah, to me, he was I know it's real tough in MMA to clearly just call one guy the GOAT, but
Mm-hmm.
in Anderson Silva's time, I feel like he was the best in his time, man. I mean,
For sure. Nobody fought like him.
yeah, man, he took him down, man. He did it in different weight classes too. I remember
Mm-hmm.
watching him fight. Chris Lieben was his first fight in the UFC, and he just destroyed him.
Yeah.
It was very intense. So what's one of the biggest lessons that the sport of MMA has taught you in life?
I don't know if MMA has taught me this, but I think it's reinforced the idea of just don't give up. I feel like there's, I'm a big believer in like history repeats itself. And I feel like the Ultimate Fighter per se, because we talk about this on the show, and it's funny because it does happen. From the Ultimate Fighter, every season you have a guy that does one thing. One guy becomes a superstar. One guy becomes a killer. Like, maybe not the most popular, but he's nasty. One guy kind of falls off and you never hear from him again. One guy keeps fighting and just doesn't win fights. And then, there's always one guy that does something crazy. And we would always joke about it in the house, like which one would become which.
Yeah,
And, in your head, if you don't win the show, which I didn't, it's like, okay, So as of right now, I'm not the super popular guy. And it's like, well, I'm still fighting, but I'm not undefeated anymore, and I'm not rallying off wins like I was before. So I like, in your head, you're like, am I the guy that just goes on trying but loses fights? And
Okay.
it's like, no, that's not me. And then it's like, I'm definitely not the guy that disappears. It's like, so this is my time. Like, I got to be the guy that doesn't give up and the guy that just becomes an animal. I don't care how popular I get,
Yeah.
but guys know that when they take a fight with me, this is gonna suck.
Who's the Who's the superstar? Is it Bryce Mitchell, the one right now that you would say?
I would say it's yeah, probably Bryce. For a little while, I would say it's Luis, but I'd say that Bryce is
I thought it
current.
was gonna be Luis too, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say it's between Bryce and Luis. Bryce is blowing up right now. I think what it is Luis blew up already. Like, he's a superstar, but he like already blew up, and Bryce is currently still blowing up.
Yeah, and it was not shocking to me, but I remember watching him fight against Brad Katona, and man, that fight was so good. I'm not gonna say I was shocked that Brad won, but I guess I was shocked in the sense that Bryce ended up launching himself like forward
Hmm.
in the UFC, and unfortunately, like for Brad, I mean, unfortunately, it's a tough part of the business. He got cut, and I thought Brad was really gonna go on to something in the UFC. I was just very shocked about that, but Bryce is killing it right now, man.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Bryce is a killer. I've been trying to tell people since I got home. Like, and so I think I don't know if I remember right. I think he fought after. Yeah, well, he definitely fought after me because I was the first fight. But I think
yeah,
he was like the second week after me. But I remember telling people when that aired, I go, "This Bryce kid, watch this Bryce kid. He's good." And then they see the whole kind of like redneck thing going on. They're like, "Is this an act?" And I'm like, "No, that's who he
that's
is.
who he
He's
is.
a." I'm like, he is a redneck. Nate Diaz. He is a bad motherfucker.
He doesn't care. He's gonna scrap with anyone. And then, wow. So, real quick before we close it out, any advice you'd give to anybody that's looking to get into MMA, or any MMA prospects that are trying to build up and get into the UFC, or just have the sort of success that you've had?
Uh, don't be lazy. Work your ass off. Don't give up. Um, yeah, man, that's the biggest thing. I've had people that I don't really know tell me to give up. I've had people I don't really know say, "Hey, keep going, keep doing you." I've had people close by my side saying, "Oh, well, if it doesn't work out," and I'm like, "No, it's gonna work out. It's set. It's gonna work out. You want it, go get it."
And is there anyone in the UFC right now that you'd love to fight? If you could fight
Mike
anyone,
Trizano.
Mike Trezani, the rematch.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. I want to thank Joe Giannetti for joining me on today's show. Joe, is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Stay tuned, guys. Hoping to get a fight soon. And Giannetti MMA on all social media if you want to join along for the ride.
Yes, and I'll actually have Joe's Instagram linked in the description of this episode, and as well as on my link tree on Instagram. Once again, thanks, Joe, for joining me. Thank you all for listening. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.